Hey everybody, I'm Paintball Dad. Thanks for tuning into my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about a pretty detailed topic. I'm going to be going through the skills that I think are necessary for each division of tournament paintball. Now, before I begin, let me explain some things. First of all, I myself am a D4 paintball player, so I've worked my way up from Division 6, the beginner's division, to Division 4. Now, because of that, I'm only going to talk about Divisions 6, 5, and 4 because those are the divisions that I have personal experience with. I also want to mention that the skills that I'm going to be presenting are not exactly some kind of like hard line requirement that you need in order to be in these divisions. These are just the skills that I think are necessary to make you kind of competitive in these divisions. I'm going to give examples of like the average skills that I see in these divisions as well as the skills that you want to have in order to be competitive. And now, since this is going to be a very detailed topic, I'm going to break this up into 3 videos. The first one is going to be talking about Division 6, the next one is going to be about D5, and the next one after that is going to be D4. And now the reason I thought about this topic was because I've actually had a few fans reach out to me recently and ask me what kind of skills they should have before they go to their first paintball tryouts. Because right now we're about to end the 2024 paintball tournament season. Once the World Cup happens, that marks the end of the season. So a lot of teams have already begun announcing their tryouts for the upcoming season. So if you're looking to get your start in tournament paintball, this is going to be the perfect resource for you. So let's begin by talking about D6 and the skills that I think are necessary to be a D6 player, as well as the skills necessary to be a competitive D6 player. Now, while I'm talking about this division, let me just say it's going to sound like I'm trash talking this division, but I want to reiterate, this is the beginner's division. The expectation for skill is pretty low in this division. By its nature, these are the less skilled players of tournament paintball. So I am going to be honest in my assessment, and I'm going to mention the shortcomings and the mistakes that I often see in this division. I also hope by doing this that if you're looking to start as a D6 beginner paintball player, maybe this will help you even feel like you're a little more prepared than you thought you were. Because the way I like to think about it is that D6 is just the theory division. Every skill in this division is just a theory. It's not really something that you're supposed to be an expert at just yet. It's kind of like learning a new job skill. First you learn the theory, you do some textbook reading, you watch some videos, and then eventually you put it into practice. Now, to help break things down a little easier, I've created 4 categories that I think summarize the types of skills that every paintballer should have. I call these categories gunfighting, movement, communication, and then paintball IQ. Let's start with gunfighting. So for gunfighting, again, everything is just theory. D6 players are going to be learning the concepts of how to lane, how to run and gun, how to snap shoot, and how to use their weak hand. But they're not really expected to be good at any of these things just yet. For example, using your weak hand. Most D6 players are not going to be very comfortable using their weak hand. So for example, let's say you have a player who's right-handed and he's in a situation where he needs to shoot out of the left side of his bunker. He's going to try to do it, but he's not going to be great at it yet. He's going to maybe be a little sloppy, leave a little more of his body exposed or his gun exposed than he normally should. He might be less accurate shooting with his left hand, and these are the things that are going to cause him to get shot out early. In my experience, this has always been like a very easy telltale sign if somebody's in Division 6, that they're not yet comfortable shooting with their offhand. Now for snap shooting, again, snap shooting as well is going to be just a concept. The players in D6 are still learning how to perfect this concept. So as a D6 beginner player, you should know what snap shooting is. You should kind of have an idea of the right form that you should use, but you're not going to be very fast at it just yet. You're not going to be super accurate while you're snapping, and you're definitely not going to be comfortable with establishing dominance just yet in a gunfight. However, the sooner that you can get at least one of those concepts down, the sooner that you can be a really competitive player in D6, whether it be by learning how to establish dominance, getting faster with your snap shooting, also learning to be unpredictable. A lot of D6 players will get tunnel vision and they'll get focused on doing the same thing over and over again, coming out on the same side of their bunker every time, coming out at the same height. If you can tell yourself to break the habit and come out at a different angle, come out a different side or a different height, that's a skill that not many D6 players are going to have just yet. And when it comes to running and gunning, again, D6 players are just learning the theory of how to run and gun. You might see them run and gun off the break, but not much during the actual game between bunkers. And their running and gunning is going to be kind of sloppy. You don't really expect them to hit anybody while they're running and gunning, but the important thing is that you're building the habit. Same thing with laning, whether it's off the break or after you get to your corner bunker, laning is a skill that needs practice. But right now at this division, you just want to learn the theory of laning. Understand when it is the right time to set up a lane, the right height to aim your lane at, but nobody's expecting you to get a kill off the break every point at this division. Now let's move on to the second category, movement. As a D6 player, you're going to be just learning the theory of movement. When is the right time to move, how you want to move, whether you want to move with your gun up or gun down, when it's appropriate to knee slide or hip slide or Superman slide. Now, one of the biggest flaws that I see in this division is that teams at this division will rely heavily on individual movement as opposed to team movement. You're going to see a lot of players that are going to rely on maybe just one or two of their teammates that are designated as their front players to do all of the movement, while the rest of the team might get stuck at their first bunker. And again, that's okay because this is D6. It's just the theory division. If you have some really killer front players that can take on a lot of the burden and you've got some good shooters giving them cover, then you could probably compensate for not having much team movement. But that is one of those skills that if you can master team movement, then it will make you very competitive in this division. Teach every player to be able to fill into the front positions. Because even as a D6 player, you should already know that positions like the snake or the Dorito 50 or the center 50 are very crucial bunkers on any paintball field. So if your snake player dies, somebody has to be able to fill in the snake. Ideally, everybody on the team should be able to fill into the snake if necessary. And now when it comes to individual movement, a lot of players in this division will make a lot of sloppy mistakes. You're going to see that a lot of D6 players don't yet know how to Superman dive, they'll rely heavily on knee sliding, they might also move kind of slow between bunker to bunker. And this is just one of those things that comes with experience and practice. It does take practice to learn how to Superman dive, but it is one of those skills that will help you get out of the line of fire just a little bit faster. Also, movement at this division might be slower than other divisions in the sense that a lot of D6 players are still going to be kind of timid about moving. They're not going to yet know how to force dominance on the field to make it safe for them to move. They'll be kind of still waiting for a safe moment for them to move. But that is a difficult thing to learn. That's like a combination between gunfighting and movement. If you can learn that, then that'll make you very competitive at Division 6. But understand that for the average D6 player, you're still just learning the concepts. If you can just learn the concept of not getting stuck at your first bunker, then that's an appropriate point to be at for D6. Now let's move on to communication. Communication is difficult for any division, let's be honest about that. But for D6, I think this is usually the weakest skill that any D6 team has, communication. Like every other skill, this is just going to be a concept, so you should at least know the concept of communicating. Go onto the field with a plan, have a name or a call out for every bunker on the field, but of course you're going to be expected to make some mistakes. You're going to forget some of the call outs. You might get excited at certain points of the game and just kind of draw a blank on what to say or when to say it. But at this level, at least just know that you need to have a plan and do your best to learn the names of every bunker on the field. And now for D6, there are two extreme mistakes that I see a lot of D6 teams making. Either the team will not communicate enough or at all, or they will over talk and not listen. Both of these are equally destructive to a team dynamic. Because if you're not talking, then obviously your teammates won't know what's going on, and if you're over talking and not listening, then you might miss some crucial information. So I would say to make yourself a competitive communicating team, you want to just get to the point where you're at that sweet spot where everybody on your team is talking and listening. Now, if you really want to kick it up a notch, I would say a good communication skill to learn is to be able to give more information than just a bunker call out. Learn to tell your teammates what a player is doing. So for example, if you're playing the snake corner and you have a snake player on your team and you see that the other team got a player into the snake, communicate with your teammate and tell him more than just, hey, there's a snake player. Tell him, hey, snake 1 looking inside or snake 1 looking outside. Also tell him when you're watching his wire and when you're looking on the inside. Detailed communication like that is something that you rarely see in D6 teams. Alright, now the last one, IQ. IQ is kind of difficult to put into words, but basically it's the collection of all of these skills to make something more than just the sum of its parts. It's using your gunfighting, your movement, and your communication to do something explosive and smart on the field. So I'll give you a personal example of this one. I was playing an NXL event one year, and on this one point my team had a very aggressive breakout. I went straight to the center 50, we had one of my guys go straight into the snake, and I think we even had somebody go to the 50 Dorito. Now we all made it into our bunkers. I was running and shooting all the way up to the center 50, shooting a lane towards the snake side. I saw that nobody had gone towards their snake side on the other team. Now, after a few seconds, I realized my snake player had lost a cross-field gunfight. And there was a good 15 to 20 seconds where there was just not much movement going on. I still did not see anybody going to the snake side on the other team, and so I felt kind of useless just staying at the center 50. So I listened to my other team, I listened to where all the other players were, I listened for where the shots were coming from, and I realized that we needed a snake player. We needed somebody to work down the side of the field and make some kills. So I put the information together in my head of where all the lanes were, wrapped around my bunker, I put in the home player, and I made it safe for me to bump over to the snake. And then once I got into the snake, I started moving up bunker by bunker and started making kills. And we won that point. But that's what I mean by IQ. I was able to use my communication to gather the information that was going on in the field. I used my gunfighting and my movement to make it safe so that I could move from the center 50 to the snake. And I knew exactly what had to be done, and I did it. Now, I'm not going to say that there's no paintball IQ in D6. You're going to see a lot of explosive moments in D6. You're going to see a lot of moments where players run down the field, make 3-packs, make even 5-packs. But at this division, it's almost like having a superpower but not being able to control it just yet. They're not going to really know how to press the issue, how to make these moments happen. It's more so like they just are waiting for that window of opportunity to arrive. And now this is a skill that really just comes with experience, with practice. Just being in certain scenarios and then learning from experience what to do in those scenarios or what not to do. But now if you want to have some competitive paintball IQ at this division, just learn to pay attention to tiny details. Learn to listen for the sound of one gun shooting at you versus like 3 guns shooting at you. That's one of the very early pieces of like paintball IQ that I learned, and I learned that there is such a thing as taking too much heat. And sometimes you need to rely on your team instead of trying to force the issue by yourself. So if you're in a situation like that and you have 3 guns on you, or even 2 guns, just tell your team, hey, I've got 3 guns on me. Because that should mean that one of your teammates is not being shot at. Maybe even 2 of your teammates are not being shot at. And that's one of those things that kind of gets all of the skills in motion at once. You took a piece of information, you communicated to your team, and then they're going to use their gunfighting and movement to make something happen on the field. Now that about wraps it up for the skill categories that I have and what level I think that a D6 player or D6 team should be at. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment. Tell me, did you guys find this information to be helpful? Are there any different kinds of skills that you've noticed or any common mistakes in this division that you've seen? And for you brand new D6 players out there, I hope this is a helpful resource to you. Thanks guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.